Running static analysis using TrueCode. TrueCode embeds powerful static analysis algorithms that help you to detect and analyze potential vulnerabilities in your code. These algorithms are known as code checks, and they help you improve the security of your code base. This tutorial assumes that you already have a workspace in TrueCode, that you have correctly created a compilation database, and that you have indexed your codebase for function definitions. These previous steps are required before proceeding with code checks. If you would like to learn more about how to do these previous steps, please refer to the respective tutorials. Stage 1. Select code checks to run. To show the list of code checks, go to the Analysis menu and select Static Analysis, Code Checks. This will open the Code Checks tab that contains the list of all available code checks in TrueCode. In this list, you can select the specific code checks that you would like to run. To ease the selection, it is also possible to select all or none of the list with a simple click. Once you have finished selecting the code checks, you are ready to configure the execution. Stage 2. Configure code checks. Each code check comes with a set of predefined configurations, which might not be the most accurate for your case. We always recommend reviewing this configuration to have results that are more relevant. Since each code check have particular parameters, this tutorial covers the configuration of the integer overflow validation code check. Please refer to TrueCode's documentation to know more about how to configure the code checks you have selected. Click on the gear button next to the integer overflow validation row to open the configuration of the code check. Context. This configuration is common for all code checks on TrueCode. It specifies the set of functions, referred in TrueCode as context, on which the code check should run. Select an appropriate context, in other words, the set of functions, to get the most relevant results. Operators. A multiple selection list to select the operators that will be flagged as potential overflow. Max function call depth. Most of the code checks have this configuration. Select the maximum call depth, starting from the functions in the context, up to which TrueCode should analyze the control and data flow. Please note that higher values of the call depth will demand more resources from the machine and will take more time to finish, but it will provide results that are more accurate. Symbolic execution limit. Some code checks use symbolic execution to narrow down the potential false positives. This value tells TrueCode how many control and data flow paths should evaluate using symbolic execution per function analyzed before giving up. Please note that symbolic execution is a resource-intensive process, and it impacts on the performance of the code checks, so higher values of this number might negatively impact on the performance of the whole analysis. Timeout. This configuration tells TrueCode how much time, in seconds, it should spend per function in the context when using the symbolic execution engine. Any analysis that times out will be discarded, potentially leading to false negatives. Pointer analysis. Some code checks also provide support for analyzing data transferred via pointers. Please note that turning on this feature will negatively affect the performance, but it will increase the accuracy of the results. Configuration ID. This is a unique identifier for the configuration of this code check. Please note that it is possible to have multiple configurations for the same code check. This means that you can run the same code check with different configurations, even different contexts, on the same execution batch. It is also possible to delete these configurations by clicking on the Delete button. Once you have finished configuring the code check, click on OK to save the changes. Finally, some other code checks help you choosing the values of the parameters, letting you decide for fast results versus accuracy of them. In code checks supporting these slider configurations, you can always override the predefined configurations and manually set values for the fields. Stage 3. Run the code checks. Once you have finished configuring the code checks, you can run the selected ones as a batch by clicking on the Run button. After this happens, TrueCode shows the progress made for each code check. Additionally, you can get more details about the execution by checking the Logging tab. Running the code checks can take a long time. Depending on the size of the code base and the applied configurations, we recommend to run them overnight. Finally, as soon as a code check finishes its analysis, TrueCode will display the code coverage achieved by the last execution. The code coverage value represents the fraction of the functions analyzed in the last execution, with respect to the total number of functions in your code base. Additionally, if the code coverage went up or down by more than 10%, you will also see a green or red arrow next to it respectively. Stage 4. Analyze the results. Once the analysis has finished, you can check the results on the Annotations tab. You can open this by opening the Tabs menu, then clicking on Annotations. New findings on your codebase will be displayed on green color. For each one of the findings, you can select it, right-click on it to open a context menu, and then select Show. This will open a new tab with a finding report. In this report, TrueCode will show you all the steps found that lead to the vulnerability. For ease of navigation, you can jump to next or previous step using the keys J and K respectively. This covers the execution of the code checks. For more information about the code checks and how can you configure them, please refer to TrueCode's manual. Thanks for watching.